Fine, we're good. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming. For those of you guys who I haven't met, my name is Perry. We've been doing these mega interviews for 5 years now. Seems crazy. Really excited you're here. You could choose to be anywhere in the world right now, and you chose to be with us, and I love that. And you're going to walk away with some actionable things. So this is Brent. When we came up with this idea a few weeks back, I literally have not stopped thinking about it. We're sharing the list with you, so please, take one with you, and we're just going to dive in. We got a lot to cover, and we'll probably get through maybe a third of this list. So, welcome, Brent. Thanks for being here. So, before we begin, for those who don't know you, or as we begin, where'd you grow up? How'd you get into real estate? All that fun stuff.
I grew up in South Minneapolis and West Bloomington. I grew up hating Edina. Now I live in Edina. My kids graduated from Edina High School. I'm in counseling for that, but everybody's good. My dad was a real estate agent starting in 1974. Before that, he sold insurance. Before that, he was in the Army for just what he had to do in the Army. I grew up, I have a great, I'm very blessed. A great family. My mom and dad were married for 59 years before my dad passed away about 5 years ago. And my mom is probably going to call me twice in the next hour because she's expecting delivery of something at her house and she's a little nervous about that. So I won't answer. I love her, but I've told her the instructions and she needs to be a better listener.
Same.
Until I was about 16 years old, I wanted to be in the Army and I wanted to be an athlete, and I was neither. Mostly because when I was trying to be an athlete, I hurt myself, and that made me I was never going to be in the service. But about the same time, I got very involved in my church and then was asked to work at a Bible camp, and just a whole lot of things happened in my life that pushed me toward, I thought at the time, a permanent position in ministry. I went to Augsburg College and graduated with a music degree. Toured with a Christian band for a year. Through the course of that, met my wife, who had a boyfriend at the time, but I made sure he was no longer in the picture. And eventually became a full-time youth director and did that for 5 years. And at the end of that I was kind of feeling like I needed some time off from that before I went to seminary and then became a pastor. And then the rest of my life was all church-based. And my dad said, hey, I needed a break. And he said, why don't you just come work with me for a little bit? See if you like it. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to hate it. Because I don't want to be a realtor. You're a realtor. That's your thing. And so I avoided all the lessons he tried to teach me and kind of farted around and made like $8,000 my first year. And that wasn't a lot then, and it's even less now.
What year and how old were you?
That was 1992, and I was 27 and a half, 28 years old. And so I did side gigs for 3 years, and because I was sure this was not what I was going to really do. Like, this was just a placeholder. And then I went to a seminar that was free, because it was free, and it was by a guy named Joe Stump. And he owned a company called By Referral Only. And my father had built a really, really amazing referral-based business. And of course, I didn't listen to a thing he said. So I went to this seminar for a day, thought it was great, signed up with $500 I didn't have to go to his 3-day event, which is very much like, I would say, very much like what Mega Camp is. The curriculum is very similar, but very much more specific into relationship building. And I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. It was literally everything my father had taught me. But we don't always listen to our parents, but we often listen to people who tell us the same things our parents always told us. This is just a different voice at a different time. And I went from making, I think I had made $16,000 that year to $38,000 the end of that year. So it made a big difference. Then I also started listening to my father. Now, he had a book of business. I was not using his book of business. I was not his partner or his minion. He would sometimes, to make sure we had enough money to pay our house payment, put me on a deal and pay me 10% just to make sure I had a little bit of money coming in. But by that time, he had stopped doing that, which is good. But I just dove in deep with my sphere of influence. And if you've ever met me, you know I am an extreme extrovert, like a dangerous extrovert. I would talk to the clock because it's got something to share with me. And that has been a gift that I've had. But not everybody I know who does our job is like that either. But because of that, my dad taught me, find your five. Find the 5 people in your life who want you to succeed. And that is super key. They have to be people who want you to succeed. It can't just be like, oh yeah, whatever. Yeah, you're selling real estate, great. These are people who are invested in you. And I was really lucky to pick 3 of those 5 who were mind-blowing. I sold my friend Robin a house for $60,000. She scraped every dime she had back together to buy this house. She painted it by going to a hardware store that was going out of business and for a nickel a can buying leftover paint or small quarts of paint. She painted her whole house with quarts and pints that she mixed together. She has no idea what the color is, right? And she was a raving fan and a huge advocate. And I have tracked her, and sometimes I've shared that with people. She for sure, and she has been dead for 20 years now, and she single-handedly has brought $20 million of volume into my life. So $65,000 sale put my kids through college. So that's me. And then I'm married. My wife is awesome. She's much smarter than I am. I have no idea why she decided to marry me, other than I'm an extreme extrovert. She's an introvert. I figured she wanted to go to parties and not have to talk. So we have 2 kids. Our oldest is about to turn 25. Our youngest just turned 26, or 22 on the 26th on Sunday. They live in Atlanta and Michigan at this time, but we're pretty devoted and weird. We go see them much for the weekend. But
You live almost within walking distance.
I do live in walking distance if I walked, but I don't.
Cool. One thing I didn't mention, and thank you for that background. If you have questions, ask questions.
Yeah,
So
please.
very, very casual environment here. So let's dive into this list. We could spend hours here today, and I literally think this is a gift for all of us. So we're not going to cover them all, of course, but just again, where do you want to begin?
Well, number one has to be where I begin. If you're a member of Keller Williams, you know that Keller's kind of big 3 is, faith, family, business, and if you aren't a person that of faith, if you don't share my faith, I'm all good with that. The thing is, something has to be above business. You have to have a bigger why. For me, I'm a Christian person. Those tenets have guided me since I was a baby. I was brought up in a Christian household. Super important to me, my family, blah, blah. I went into youth ministry, so it's probably somewhere in my in my DNA. But even if it's family, you've got to have human beings, right, above your business. You got to put them first. And if you're currently single, you don't have a big family, whatever, again, that's okay. Find your group of friends, find the people that you love and care for. That's got to be, and they don't deserve the leftovers in your life. They deserve what makes you you. There are seasons in your life where you're going to be working 80 hours a week. That happens. It does. But there are also seasons in your life where you will look back and go, I hope my child texts me this week. Like, hello would be great. And you realize that the windows that you have in some of these relationships are very small, and you need to squeeze every drop you can out of them. So, and you don't want to give them the leftovers. You don't want them to, and I learned that is not a lesson I have done well. It's just a lesson I have learned and continue to learn. When we go on vacation, when we used to go on vacation with our kids, but my wife is a C-suite executive, like, so she's very busy as well. But we both said, okay, here's what we're going to do. If we're on vacation, we might wake up at 7 o'clock and work for an hour and a half every single day. But once 8:30 happens, our family gets the rest. Certainly, are there emergencies? There are phone calls I will always take. I will always take, if my kids show up on my phone right now, I will walk out of here and take that. My wife does it, except for my mom, because right now I know what's in there. But my immediate family, absolutely. I have lost a listing. Matt Lynn was with me. Matt was with me early on in his career, and he sat in a listing presentation with me. And I was being considered one of three, and it was close to his neighborhood. I wanted him to see it. And in the middle of it, my wife called me. My wife does not call me during the day. And as it turned out, it was something very serious with one of her parents. And I took that call, and I did not get that listing. And I knew as soon as I hung up, I was not going to get that listing because one of the two parties checked out completely, which they should. And though I said who it was and why I took the phone call, they were ending a marriage, the two people at that. And so that hit them very close, I think. But I'm okay with that. I'm okay with not working with somebody who doesn't value those things or doesn't allow me to value them. So that, I would say, that's where I would start. And because my big why is my family. At this point in my career, I'm 61 years old. My dad worked until he was 75, and we actually had to ask John Butler, who was our broker at the time, to ask my dad to release his license because he was having small strokes and memory issues, and we were seeing that he needed to not be with people. He couldn't sign contracts anymore. He couldn't explain contracts. So we had to make that very difficult decision. I'm not going to work that long. I don't want to lose these years because I'm worried about somebody's listing. So if you go toward the end, I say have an exit strategy. And I'm working on that strategy with a colleague from our office who I feel very like-minded with, who's relatively new in the business, is building his business, but can build his business at the same time he takes care of mine. So, but I have a number of friends of mine who are in this room right now who are like-minded in this stuff. And part of it is like, you got to hang out with the people who value what you value because that reinforces those values. So that's
love it.
A whole lot. There's a couple of these were involved in that whole conversation.
All right. And again, please ask questions. Okay, show up for people.
Yeah, again, people have to be at the top of you can build one of two businesses. We've talked about this before in team meetings. You can be a transactional agent. You can be a relational agent. Some people can do both. I think the home team does a really good job of being both. I think some of the larger teams in our group have, or even like the smaller, like Julian and Angie and Amelia, like those three women are differently gifted. Each of them have personality traits that are going to click with different people. And to understand who you put where is huge. And if you can figure that out, I think as a team, you can really rock the world, right? If you play to people's strengths rather than forcing round pegs into square holes, that's the strength of a team. But I decided a long time ago, because of how I was mentored, to be relational. And part of that is being involved in people's lives. Facebook was the single most important thing I've ever done, ever in my career. Now, Facebook only happens first once in your lifetime. Like social media now is like everywhere, but back then I was one of very few people that were getting into it. I was mostly just trying to find my high school classmates and people I'd lost track of. And then I was like, well, then I started friending all my clients who then were very easily able to just say, you should talk to Brent. He's my friend on Facebook. They didn't have to exchange phone numbers. It was like click, go, instant message, But part of that is too, like I know when they're having babies, when they've lost a parent, when they have a birthday. Every morning, Facebook tells me all of the people that are having birthdays. I often will text them happy birthday based on what I've read on Facebook. And then 10 to 20 minutes later, like when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is look at Facebook birthdays and I text the people who I know well or who are clients of mine right away in the morning. And then when I come into the office, I do the Facebook on the wall one. I'm invited to the wedding of my closer's daughter because I went and watched her do weightlifting. Like that became a friendship because Mike came to watch my kids play ultimate frisbee. I went to Cannon Falls to watch his daughter power lift. I was invited to the older daughter who doesn't really know me that well, her wedding. And I was blown away at that. I may never have him as a client. He knows 85,000 realtors, but I don't care. Like it's a relationship that I cherish. And, but you have to show up for people. I've gone to I was at a funeral Saturday of a high school classmate of mine who took his own life. Interviewed me to list his house 15 years ago. They ended up using somebody else. His wife just about fell over when I walked in because she was like, well, she was trying to figure out why I was there. And then I just gave her a big hug but she didn't expect me there, but I showed up. And sometimes I drive a long way. But my dad taught me that, and you just do whatever you can. We ended vacations when I was a kid because important people lost important people. And there's still people who one of my cousins said, I still can't believe that when you were 12 and whatever, your whole family left your vacation 2 days early to come to grandma's funeral in wherever it was. And that's how I was raised. You got to be there for people. And it doesn't mean be there all the time. We had this conversation about, Julie and I had this conversation with Kari yesterday, Kari Lundeen, about guarding your time. Like you don't have to take phone calls at 11:30 at night. That doesn't mean that you're not there for them. It means at 8 o'clock in the morning, you say, I got your message, I'm so sorry, or how can I help, or whatever. But you can be unavailable and still be very available. So, again, it all goes back to, if number one is giving your family your best, then your phone needs to be untouchable after 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever. If you have little children, like if you're putting your babies down, don't be answering a phone call. You can call them an hour later, or you can call them the next morning. We are not heart surgeons. I think you said that, or Kari said that yesterday. We are not heart surgeons. Like, no one will probably, unless someone's like, there's my carbon monoxide detector's going off. What should I do? Leave the house. I mean, that's the answer.
You get stung by bees 7 times.
What's that?
I just had a client get stung by bees 7 times at a showing.
Oh.
Never had that happen.
So that's less than 30. So walk us through, because we all are nodding like, yep, that sounds good, Brent. Like, yep. What's the conversation on the front end that you have with your clients to set that expectation?
This has developed over years. Obviously, if I'm working with somebody who knows me well, like my friends, and many of my clients become my friends over time, right? But if I'm sitting down with a new buyer who doesn't know me well, or maybe they're the children now of my past clients, which is, I'm working with a lot of them now, which is crazy. But I sit down and I'm just like, and I will say, when would you like to be working together? Like what part of the week? And if they're like, well, we work until 6, and so we're usually available at like 6:30 to 9, Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays, but Sunday mornings we'd like to sleep in. Great. That's a lot of data, but it's very easy to say to them, that's great. I am available, pretty much 9 o'clock in the morning until probably 8 o'clock at night throughout the week, depending on the day. So we can always count on a 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock kind of time frame. I do work only one weekend day. So sometimes it's a Saturday, sometimes it's a Sunday. It's not always the same, but I try to, if you want to see houses on a Saturday and you're the first of my clients to say, I want to see houses on a Saturday, you set the day then for me. That means Sunday I'm not working. And people are usually like, well, what that does is it gives a sense of urgency. Like, I want to make sure I get to pick the day that Brent is working this week. And so they'll remember if I say, oh, you know what, I've already got people looking on Sundays, so Saturdays I'm out. They'll like, oh, if they have treated me well during this whole time, I might say, well, my wife hates to get up before 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. So if you can meet me at 8:30, we're good. So I can make those exceptions as I choose, but I try to control it as best I can. I also understand when houses were basically flying off the shelves and you needed to see it Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, or else you didn't get a chance. My world shifted as I needed to, but it also meant that I would then take time off on Thursdays or whatever. When my kids were home, if my kids had an event, that was an immovable object. I always had an appointment then. When my kids played sports, they did theater, they did choir. Not going to happen, and not going to happen. So often I was driving separately from my wife or my family to go to the same event so I could leave early or whatever, or leave right away. But yeah, that's how you do it. You just have to do it. You have to decide, and you have to mentally, I think, tell yourself, my family is first. My family is first. My family is first. Otherwise, you can say, well, I'm doing this for my family, but are you really? Because if you are really doing it for them, then you need to make guidelines for your clients so they respect your family. So that's what I would say.
So 6 and 7, again, some of these sound obvious, but from your perspective, so be a good listener, be a better listener.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when you wrote that?
I talk too much. Like, I talk way too much. You've experienced that just now. Like, I just
talking the whole time.
No, but I just like go. I will fill all the space you give me, and I have to realize I have to make space for them to talk to me. And my father always said, whoever in a negotiation, whoever speaks first is the loser. So if you say, I will pay you, your house is on the market for $200,000, which doesn't happen anymore, but let's pretend it does. And you say, I'll give you 190, shut up. Don't say anything. Don't write any more emails. Don't justify the reason we did 190 is because, and here's my CMA, and it did this, and we did a dance on the front yard. It felt good, but didn't feel good enough to be 200. Now, in the same way, ask leading questions. So that means ask questions that are not yes or no. Harry, you have magnificent socks. Tell me about why you're wearing them.
They're cheap on Amazon, 6-pack.
So what I'm hearing you say is you were going for volume, not style.
So I throw them away when they get old snow.
Okay, and you got both. So that's really cool, right? But that's not just, I like your socks. Thanks. Right. And we talk too much. We try to fill in the blanks. You are an expert. That's why they hired you. Be the expert. Let them ask questions of you. Answer them clearly. And sometimes they don't know because they don't know what questions to ask. So you can say things like, so I know we've talked about a lot. when we talked about financing, did you understand everything we were talking about? Like, hand them questions they can ask you. You really understood financing well. I know that you've never bought a house today or before today. Do you want me to go through the difference between a condominium and a townhouse again? Well, no, we totally get that. That's amazing because some people really struggle with that. You know, they're going to come up with something. They're like, well, yeah, tell us again about association dues. What are they? And whatever. But be inquisitive because that'll help them be inquisitive. But mostly listen to what they're saying. What I missed at the table when I took the phone call, what I should have known at the table when I took the phone call when my wife called, was they are about to see a functional marriage where I will drop everything for my wife. And one of those people maybe doesn't do that. Like in hindsight, looking back now, I'm like, oh my gosh, of course I didn't get hired. I just flung my relatively normal marriage in their face. So empathy, those kinds of things, that doesn't happen sometimes in the instant. Sometimes that's the lesson you learn when they say no. But
Just to add on that just quickly, I have 3 things I think about on that topic. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you want to listen twice as much as you talk. And then the word listen and silent have the exact same letters. So people don't think of. And then thirdly, my first OP up in Fargo taught me, the more you talk, the more chances you have to make yourself look stupid. So just stop talking.
Agreed. Yeah, all those things. 2 of those for sure came straight out of my father's mouth, right? The listen and, the 2 and 1. Yeah, love it.
Okay, what's next?
Be authentic. Many of you, this is the first time you've seen me wear pants that aren't blue jeans.
Yeah.
And this also goes with dress. I think I have that somewhere in there. Dress
Success, but comfortable.
for success, but be comfortable. Dress so your clients are comfortable. I mean, I was trying to find, my sister happened to work at the first real estate company I worked at. And she took a picture of me on my first day as a realtor, which is crazy. And I was looking for it. I could not find it. And I was dressed. Like I had a beautiful black suit with an awesome tie with a full wool overcoat. I was absolutely spectacular. That lasted until I had to probably dry clean that suit. My dad came from an era where they were suits and ties all the time until magically, I think when I joined, I was like, Dad, I don't have the suits. I was a youth director. Everything I have is cotton and washable. And then I destroyed like 4 pairs of dress pants showing houses. I'd catch a nail and rip these gorgeous pants and like, oh my gosh, this is an expensive job. And so then I was working new construction early on. And when I was working new construction, I am not wearing good clothes on a new construction site, not a dusty, dirty, filthy crap that can kill you, whatever. And so I just shifted toward blue jeans, and my dad shifted toward Dockers. Like he couldn't khakis. He could not make the full blue jean transition, and that's okay. And our broker gave us a lot of crap for that. But my dad was the #1 salesperson in their office, so he was like, whatever. And he wore a polo shirt. But he was who he was already. He had developed, his personality was who everybody loved my dad because of who my dad was. He was very kind. He was very funny, and smiled all the time. That was just his thing. For me, I was working with so many people in ministry. And if I walk into a youth director's office in a suit, they're like, what happened to you? Like you used to be normal. And so I started more and more dressing to, finding my uniform, if you will. So I was in tennis shoes and blue jeans and a button-down shirt almost all the time. But I do wear sweatshirts and stuff depending on what's clean. But that was who I was. I'm sure there are listings that I have gone on, and when I'm going to a listing where I don't know the people and it's needed to upper scale home, I dress more like this than that. But so I do change my look a little bit, but I'm still me, and I don't try to pretend I'm not me. There's a woman in our office whose name is Krista Forsberg. Krista came out of corporate, like Target Corporate. And when I did a luxury listing of my son's ex-girlfriend's parents, who still hired me, which was weird, I brought her in because she speaks corporate. And she is an amazing luxury, like she's an amazing luxury agent right now. But we teamed up well. And so I brought the expertise and the knowledge, and having at the time, 25 years of experience and knew the market. And she brought all of the personality of it. And we were a great team. And she is my luxury team. Like that's who I team up with for big stuff usually. So when I knew I wasn't the right one, I still brought the right one in. And so but that was me being authentic. I don't feel comfortable. Like I know rich people. I have friends who are rich people. A lot of people would say my wife and I are rich people. It's all comparative. But there's a sandbox I'm not real comfortable in. And so I bring other people who play better in that sandbox as part of my team. And that's been super. It's helped secure business. It's also helped my clients feel more comfortable because there's somebody who understands kind of what's important to them. And I can listen and be the pro to make sure their house is right. But sometimes they have an emotional need that I'm not recognizing.
Thank you. I would be kicking myself if we ended this hour, which again, we're halfway through roughly. If we didn't just briefly mention the Keep Smiling Fund, will you go into that quick?
Sure. So if you're a member of this office, we have three charitable opportunities that you have. You have the National KW Cares account, you have the Market Center KW Cares account, and there's a little one called the Denny Johnson Keep on Smiling Fund. Mm-hmm. The difference is this: the big one needs to be, you apply, you jump through hoops, and nationally someone decides if you're eligible for it or not. There's some other things you have to do as well, but that's the big one. The one that is a very large fund as well, but is much more controlled by our office, is the KW Market Center account, the KW Cares account, where the ALC and leadership can hear about things that are needed, and they have a conversation and figure out how they can help whatever situation they know about. And that's awesome as well. There is this other account that is in honor of my father, and it is literally at the beck and call of anyone on our staff who sees an agent who they know is struggling. They don't need permission. They don't ask me. They just simply have the complete. All they need to do is make sure Abby is told like who it is and what it's for, and they can just decide if somebody can't pay their office fees for a month. If they know somebody lost, we had somebody who had a computer ripped off out of their car, broke in, and we were able to provide a computer for them. It wasn't a super fancy one, but it worked. And and it's kind of out there, but it's not something you ask for. It's something sort of that the staff can step in, because they know what's going on in your lives. And if you're struggling, that Abby and John and Rob, they see it, they know it. You've maybe even shared stuff with them. They do have some money. It's not a lot, and it's not going to make a huge dent in anybody's life, but it might pay an electric bill. It might, who knows? We just started that when my dad died. So it's been a good one. So.
Nice. So my challenge to you is, if any of these impact you, I would love to challenge you to donate to that on your next closing, or just tell happy to put it on your monthly bill as a thank you to Brent.
That'd be cool. And mostly it's for the people sitting next to you. Like that's where that money goes. It stays all here.
That's awesome. Cool. All right. Which one's next?
Oh, don't burn bridges. Like, be nice to other agents. And even if they're not nice to you, like, just don't burn bridges. Someday you'll do another deal with them, and you don't want to be embarrassed about how you behaved last time. Let them be embarrassed about how they treated you. But be the pro. And just be the pro. That's one. Hug people if you can. I wrote HR after that. My wife is the vice president of human resources for Minnesota Teen Challenge. And my father used to drive her crazy because she's like, if you worked where I worked, I would have to fire you like every time.
Yeah.
So I would say it may not always be a physical hug. Do what you can to make people know that they're cherished. So treat the staff that helps you like they were your favorite family member. The people that write the checks, the people that make sure that you look good to the public deserve your respect. The printer is broken. It is not their fault. You know, they might know how to get it fixed, but they didn't break it. Well, maybe they did. But like, go easy on these people. There's 150 blah, 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 however many people they have to serve and take care of and make sure that their education's done and make sure that they're compliant and they're not doing it to pick on you when they say you actually have to have signatures on this purchase agreement or you have to turn it back to you. Like, they don't do that for fun and giggles. So just, there's a reason why people like working here, and it's because of the people that are in our leadership group and the rest of the culture we try to maintain here. So be a keeper of our culture and spread it. And the best way to spread that is by being kind to one another inside this office. That's where it has to start. And that's why we've gotten some of the large teams and the highly productive agents who have transferred here from other Keller Williams companies, other companies that are under the same philosophy that we're in, but we're getting these people here because we are different. So be different, be better, just be better. So
I would add to that, including your mortgage people, your title people, the inspectors, all of the people on your team that aren't on your team, treat them that same way.
There's a reason I'm invited to a wedding of a closer. Like, hopefully it's because he likes me, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, and that's not about me. It's literally about the way I was raised. So like, if you like me, it's because you like my family. I mean, truthfully, even my mom, who hasn't called me yet, which is get a good accountant. Best thing ever I did was when an accountant who was referred to me by my friend Ted Westall, who used to be here, he's like, yeah, Brent, this guy's great. You should do this. And Gary sat down with me, told me to become a sub S corporation, showed me if I had done this last year, the other accountant who was not just a tax preparer, but an accountant who should have known better. He should have been moving me along this path 5 years beforehand. He would have saved me. I did the math. Over the course of 2 years, he would have saved me $40,000 in taxes, just to restructure. It's not that I was like deducting weird things I shouldn't have deducted. It just the structure of it all. That it is life-changing when you suddenly have. I paid my taxes earlier than I have paid for a long time this year. I feel so good. Like, not waiting for that last minute. Oh my gosh, I need $4,000. I got to sell a mobile home tomorrow or something. But
so number 9, save money for taxes, save money for retirement. How do you what do you do every time? Strategy.
So I pay myself, I W-2 myself. So I have Social Security taxes taken out. I have income taxes taken out, state and federal, because I pay a payroll service and it costs me $60 a month to write one paycheck. Like, it's really dumb, but it's not really dumb because it's honestly, I don't have to think about it. I will always have to pay taxes at the end of the year. because I don't just pay myself with the W-2. I also take what's called a sub-S distribution, which is like a dividend I'm pulling out of my business. And I do that throughout the year. Like I just paid my son's the last tuition bill of my life, hopefully, with a sub-S distribution. So I'll get taxed on that after the fact, but I'll get taxed at the lower tax rate. So that's why I do it that way. But I do save for taxes. I do have a SEP, which is a 401k for self-employed people. So I've done that. Plus I'm paying into Social Security, and there's different philosophies of that. Do I take a lot of W-2 and a little of like 1099 money or whatever? That's why you have a tax guy. I've told him my strategy. He's like, here's what you should do. I'm like, great. He said to me this year, he's like, they are not taking out enough taxes for you. So if you don't want to be writing me a big check again, take out more. Which I told my payroll service up that number. Retirement. My father lived off Social Security and the grace of God. I mean, he tried some real estate investments, and it says here, invest in real estate at least once in your life. That doesn't mean buy your house. It means invest in real estate that's not your single family home. Some people are built to do it well, be a good landlord and those kinds of things. Some people aren't. There are also people like Eric Peterson, who's an agent out on the west suburban side of things. And he is right now putting together a large group of people who are together buying an apartment building up in Fargo. And so you might have that's called a REIT. You might have an opportunity to buy into one of those. Then you don't have to manage it. You don't have to worry about tenants not paying their rent. There are ways to do that. Do that. Do that. Do that. It's your industry. Put money in. I've owned a duplex. I've owned a triplex. I've owned a piece of a partnership. I currently am not in real estate. There are reasons for that for me. We sold out when we thought we were going to be moving out of state, and we just haven't gotten back into it. But do that. But my dad and mom like tried to flip houses to build up their nest egg, and then timed the last one poorly. And so the market crashed. They lost $200,000. My dad did a development in 1980 that went bankrupt. His partner ran off with all the money before he paid any of the bills. So my dad had to, at 18% interest, borrow $1 million. When like a private college costs $8,000 a year then. That's just give you an inflationary scale. A car probably costs $5,000. So, and he paid off every dime. He emptied like all of the money he had saved for his retirement, his 3 children's college, all went out the door. And so we all went to college, and they paid our whole way, and they borrowed it and borrowed it and borrowed it. Like they followed through. They didn't have to, right? But anyway, they were magnificent people and still are. But
are any of your siblings in real estate?
There was a time when my mother worked for Casual Corner. My dad was a realtor. I was a realtor. My sister was a closer, and my brother was a mortgage banker.
Oh, wow. Family affair.
Now my sister works for Evereve, and my mom retired from the Alexander Center. She worked in healthcare, but office manager. And my brother sells corporate insurance. But we all had our toes in it for a little bit. But there was about 5 years that we were all in. But none of them won. And none of like, I've told my kids, like, what are you thinking? They're like, no. So we'll see. Oh yeah, be at
Daddy.
Oh yeah, my dad would always drive Oldsmobiles and Buicks and nice Pontiacs and stuff, but he would never drive a Cadillac or a Lincoln. He would never have driven a foreign car ever. That's just his. He worked with a number of people who are automakers worked for the Ford plant, and he would have never ever heard the end of it. But it's all about knowing your client base. If you are a luxury agent, you should maybe own a luxury car. But does that mean that you're going to pull up in your Bentley in front of a house in North Minneapolis and make people feel weird. You know, I mean, you gotta know who you're shooting for. People who have a lot of money are not necessarily impressed with a lot of money. People who want to be impressed with a lot of money usually don't have a lot of money. They might have things that are expensive. My dad's the best story my dad ever told me, and I've met this man, and he's a stitch. One of my dad's best friends and clients walked into a Ford dealer in the early 70s. And in the early 70s, Ford made a car called the Pinto. It was the most stripped down, basic little car you could possibly know. And this guy walked in, he owned a machine shop, and he walked in his overalls. And the salesman he walked up to kind of blew him off. And so another young guy he kind of handed him off to this young dude. And the guy's like, I'd like to buy a Pinto. And the young man was really attentive to him, and he listened to him, and he's like, great. Kind of a basic car, went through the whole list, and the guy's just like, all we need to do now is the color. And he pulls out the color chart, and he's like, so which color would you like? And the guy was like, I would like 3 of these, 4 of these. He bought 15 cars. You do not know who you are talking to and how much money they have. He was buying them for all of his employees. They'd had their biggest year ever, and blah, blah, blah. Like, it was the coolest story. And I know this is a true story. I met this guy, and I'm like, you're the Pinto guy. And he's like, I am. I was like 19. He was very impressive to me. I wanted to work for him, and then he could buy me a car. But you know, you just got to know who you are. Like, if flashy watches are big for you, but you're meeting somebody who you don't know well, maybe you put the Rolex away. Or like, you just got to know my wife drives a BMW. I never borrow her car. I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee. It's very nice, but it's not a Beamer. And there's a reason for that. I do have an old car that I drive every once in a while that's actually out in the parking lot right now. But even that, nobody has any idea what the value of it is. It's not worth nearly what I have into it. So it's like, whatever. But yeah, so that's that.
I bet there's some stories behind 23. Be willing to pay for your client's bad decisions.
Sometimes you'll be $500 apart on a deal, and you cannot get your clients to understand that it's just $500. And they'll be like, but we want our wine fridge. We are not going to leave it behind. Buy the wine fridge. Buy the washing machine. Or just simply help them understand. Sometimes it means physically buying it, and try not to do that. But if you're going to make $15,000 on a commission, and a $500 item is stopping you, please do the mental math on that. How many more houses do you have to show? How many more offers do you need to wait for? What is the carrying cost of an extra month on the market for your seller if they don't take this offer? They may not see that. They are looking at the wine fridge, which they have always wanted. And it might be that you can say, take the wine fridge, call the other agent. If I give them $500 for a wine fridge, will they? And they're like, well, yeah, we just want a wine fridge. Like, sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's a dishwasher that broke. I have started buying warranties for every one of my first-time home buyers because they have no idea what can break. And if you can take that stress out of their lives a little bit, that's a really cool thing for you to do. I also use Total Home Helpers. They have a little thing called their Total Home Helper cards. They give you 2 hours of labor for costing me $75, I think, or something. It's not very much. But for you to say, well, that light fixture might need to be replaced. If it does, my people can maybe do that for you. But sometimes it's like, I had one client who they bought the house and found out after the fact that the sellers had very much misled us onto the zoning. We checked the zoning and said it was this, and they're like, yep. And I said, well, is this an extra unit? It was sold as a duplex, it was sold as a triplex, but it was really a duplex. And they said, no, it's fine. We have this letter from the city, and they gave us this letter from the city that on closer examination was not maybe as legitimate as it should have been. And so I just told my guy, if you need to sell this, I will sell it for free. If it's not going to meet your criteria. Now, it wasn't my fault that someone is willfully deceiving, and we could do a lawsuit, but the lawsuit will never make him whole on that. But he knows that if it really becomes an issue and he needs to unload this thing, at very least, he's going to walk out with what he walked in. So that's a future promise that could last for 10 years. And if I work with Matt Lynn and he takes over my business, that is a promise he's going to have to honor on my behalf. That's a big one. That's a $10,000 deal. But it's like there have been, people who are in, I won't let my clients buy without an inspection unless they really know what they're doing. Like those days are maybe hopefully getting to be behind us a little more as the market gets more balanced. So be careful what you're putting yourself out for. Sometimes you just got to help them get over the edge. And when they look at like the wine fridge situation, after they now realized, or the biggest is washers and dryers. They're like, washer, we want it. We just bought these 3 years ago. We love them. And then they find out after they have booked their movers, how much more it costs to move those washers and dryers. And they're like, or we could just take the ones and buy a new one. And yeah, so.
Love it. I've been thinking about this the whole time we're sitting here. It's the importance of double checking your contracts. Can you share the very short story of when you guys bought your guys' house and your closing costs?
So we bought contingent, the house that we live in Edina, and the other agent was hounding me a lot to withdraw the contingency. And he was telling me, you would always make up people that were interested. Well, oh yeah, we're going to get an offer. We're going to get an offer. And he bugged us, and we never did. Got to the last day of the contingency, and he called me and said, hey, my sellers have said that they will pay your closing costs if you will remove your contingency. And we were approved non-contingent. So we talked about it, and we were both like a little nervous, but we did it. So I said, but this guy'd been such a jerk, and he'd never given me anything in writing before. And so I'm like, you write it up, you have your people sign it, send it over, we'll consider it. So he sent it over. On his letter, right? This is his, Bob's brokerage. Seller agrees to pay the buyer's closing costs. Period. No cap, no top number. And so I immediately told my wife, I'm like, he didn't do what he should have. I'm going to talk to our lender, and so I called my lender and I said, Mark, how low can I buy the interest rate down? And his response, which would have been Angie's response, it only makes sense to about, and I'm like, nope, that's not the question I asked. How low can I actually buy this down? And he's like, well, I guess. And so we get to the closing, and so we signed it and we sent it back. And I said, okay, we're just all this, it says right here, Mark, just max it out, baby. And so we got to the closing, and I told my wife, we had not sold our house yet. We had not even packed. We had little babies, and we were like, nah. We walked into the closing. I'm like, told my wife, this may not go. Like, we may not close today, just so you know. She's like, what? Yeah, she's postpartum is great. Okay. Mistakes I've made in my relationships.
That's another session.
But we walked in and we sat down, and the agent looked at the Alta, which was called a HUD, and just about pooped their pants. Like they were like, I'm going to need to talk to you, Brent, out in the hallway. And he's like, I cannot believe I've never seen closing costs this high, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I understand, but I want you to look at the addendum that you sent me that we signed. Nowhere on there did you say up to a certain, well, this is unreasonable. You did not say a reasonable amount. You just said you will pay him. And he's like, well, you are probably not going to close today. I'm like, we are not packed, so we're good. And he went in and talked to his seller, and we were called back in. And the sellers are smiling and friendly, and he's grumpy, and he lasted like 4 minutes, and he got up and left. It's like, I'm sorry, I have an appointment. This is taking too long. Gone. And after everything was signed, because I'm like, when are they going to tell us we're not going to move forward? We signed it all, and we're chatting. And I said, I'm sorry that it sounds like you were probably surprised by that closing cost number. And I apologize that that wasn't communicated well with you. And he said, and the wife says, oh, that's okay. He was calling you on that day because we were going to fire him the next day anyway. His listing was about up. Then we were just going to call you and just sell the house directly to you without him. And he paid the difference. So we didn't pay him for this. So he reduced his commission to, well, of course he did, because he didn't take good care of his clients. He didn't look at their financial liability. And so, yeah, I think we brought our interest rate down by almost 1%. It was crazy, but yeah, but please read what your clients are writing, for heaven's sakes. Like, cost him everything. It could have cost him a whole lot more. He sold real estate for another 3 years, and
that's why we're creating a clause library.
yeah, absolutely. But you have to realize we are supposed to be ethical. That is a moving target. So read what your people are going to write. Read it. Look for, especially now that we use computers to do so much of it. Used to be you'd see handwritten stuff, so it would pull your eyes to it. You'd be like, oh, that's different. Now it looks like it blends in. And if they're really smart, they've blended the font so it really just blends in. So just read those things. Know where the blank lines are in a purchase agreement. That's super important. So
Love that story.
so do I. That guy doesn't, though.
Is he still in the business?
Long gone.
Okay, so we have 3 minutes. What questions do you have for Brent, and or as you think about that? Again, obviously we covered about 2/3. What questions do you guys have?
Don't eat food that arrives through a window. Honestly, this didn't happen overnight. I wish I could get rid of it overnight. I lead a very unhealthy lifestyle. I'm trying to get better at it, the last 10 years especially. I know what killed my father. I know that without some serious thought, I'm going to wander down some of those same paths with him. He was a lifelong smoker, so I have never been down doing that stuff, but like, I have high blood pressure, I have high cholesterol, I have, borderline diabetic. Like, please don't do what I did. Eat smart, exercise, just be active. Take mental health days. I have a number of friends who are pastors who are all on sabbatical right now. Like, I have 4 friends who are on sabbaticals. I wish we could do that in our career. I think we can if we're thoughtful about it. So if you're in the first 5 years of your business, continue to build and put some money away so that you can take a month off, where you take it off at year 8, let's say. 8 years in, take a month, hand your phone to a good friend of yours who will take care of your people like that, like you take care of them. Where you can go, I just did 14 days with my wife, driving, seeing our kids, doing fun stuff, going at whatever. I had Javari was here, Craig North, like, I had a number of people helping me out. It was beautiful. And it's the first time I felt like I was on vacation. My stress level went way down. I just felt better the whole time. I've lost 25 pounds. Like, I'm working on it, and it's taken a long time, and it's not fun. And I live again just down the block from Dairy Queen. Like, but yeah, if you can stop there is nothing that is delivered to you through a drive-through window that has any food value. And I challenge you to find something that is, other than maybe Wendy's, because they do salads still.
Culver's has salads.
I don't even know where the closest Culver's is right now, but the last thing I need to do is go to Culver's. Because
Chick-fil-A.
they also have amazing French fries. But anyway.
Let's give Brent a round of applause. If you found value in today, I challenge you to donate to the Keep Smiling Fund. Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
See you guys next month. Thank you.